It's actually good evening, Fairfax community. Spring is upon us, although I can hear rain outside. And as much as you know that I am a cold water enthusiast, the middle of winter, I think we all crave some warmer weather, some escapism. My very extraordinary special guest today was someone who took part on a show that I think was the definition of escapism. Warm weather, board shorts, surf, beautiful beaches, beautiful people, and some really interesting situations. He's a guy by the name of Dean Gladstone, and he was one of the main lifeguards that featured on Bondi Rescue. But that's not been enough for Dean. He's gone off and he's created, with his lovely partner, a business called Power of the Breath. Ice baths, breath work, yoga, but so much more, a community that actually is international and certainly around Australia, and a massive following with elite athletes, including Bronte Campbell, Josh Dacos, to name a few, for those Melbourne people to make it relevant. Dean, thank you for joining us on the Bearfax.
Mate, so happy to be here. It's really great to connect, to fellow people that potentially have the same interest in regulating the nervous system and helping people live better, more fuller lives.
Oh, look, absolutely, Dean. So, look, my community know that the journey began for me about 12 or 13 years ago with cold water swimming. And then it's obviously progressed into ice baths. And as you connect with the communities and you connect with people like Lars Ice Bath International, you then find out that he's in touch with people like yourself. Let's just go back a little bit. Dean, where did you grow up?
Yeah, so I grew up in the eastern suburbs or the southern suburbs of Sydney, just around the corner, really.
Yeah.
Maroubra, Matraville way, not too far from where I am now.
And so
In,
a saltwater baby.
Yeah, we grew up. I have very early memories of us getting a swimming pool and a bulldozer in my backyard when I was about 4, and we went off to swimming lessons. But we were very close to Maroubra Beach as kids, and we spent a lot of time down there at the beach and in the pool.
So unlike the children of the southern states, where football dominated, you guys would have been in the ocean year round, yeah, or pretty much?
Pretty much. We still played footy.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were in the ocean. All our holidays, Dad liked the ocean and the sun. All our holidays mainly revolved. We did get skiing occasionally, but mainly revolved chasing the sun.
What
There's
did what
some
what did it mean for you as a kid? What does the ocean mean to you?
Yeah, that's it. Well, it was just a part of our lives. It was, where my friend base group was. It was, it was my hobby. It was, a sort of go-to place for us, a holiday destination. It was a constant part of my life.
You probably didn't realize it as a child, but as the years went on, what did it do for you physically and mentally, being in the ocean and being in the water?
Yeah, well, it potentially gave me a career, Ross. Like this is, what I ended up doing,
Yeah.
working at the beach.
Yeah.
And I still do, but I was a full-time lifeguard for, the best part of 17 years. And at one stage, I thought it was my forever job. I thought I'd be there forever. Um, so yeah, I sort of loved being at the beach, loved the environment. It's dynamic, it's constantly changing. And, I had some skills in that area. I didn't have, I struggled at school, and to have something you're good at and then to be able to help people, it was beautiful. And I didn't realize originally that I would get such a kick out of helping people, but, potentially, my skill set was, being in the ocean. So it was great to find a job where I could use that.
And not to put down the Melbourne beaches, because I live at one, but pretty beautiful beaches or beach that you worked at, but also very treacherous and very dangerous. Very well, a proper ocean beach.
Yeah, Bondi's busy. Potentially, my puppy dogs are playing in the background. Apologies. It's partially so dangerous because of its proximity to the CBD,
Yeah,
and one of the biggest tourist destinations in Australia.
yeah.
I've heard different estimations from, 2 to 10 million visits per year. Potentially the number one tourist destination. Maybe the Opera House is, depending on who you ask. But yeah, so it just attracts so many tourists and such a big crowd, and that's where potentially some of the problems do occur.
Where you've got alcohol, drugs, and people that are maybe from backgrounds that think it's okay to swim in jeans and jumpers, and then going into the Australian or the wild ocean, isn't it? So yeah, very busy.
It was wild back in the day, right? When I first started, like early 2000, people were still drinking on the beach. When we used to get through, there's three really big days for us: Christmas Day, and all around that, but New Year's Day, obviously New Year's Eve's nasty to an Australia Day. People used to just get violently drunk, and violence would potentially erupt. There seems to be more drug use these days, which seems to have people happier somewhat, but it's more policed, the alcohol restrictions around the beach. But yeah, back, like, I remember like dragging people out of the water face first, and they were vomiting, and girls just grabbing my face and trying to kiss me. Like, it was just there. It was wild.
So not a bad job for a young single fella.
Well, it terrified me at first, but yeah, potentially we get to meet people. But at Bondi, you're so busy. There's not actually a lot of time to chat up girls, if that's what people are thinking.
So I don't mean to brush over that, but I think it's really important that people get that background, because it was such an iconic show, and it gives, I think, just before we move into the other stuff, it gives a really good background of the amazing work that you did. And, in such high, you're really under scrutiny too. You've got the whole public watching, but you've also got the cameras on you as well, haven't you? So a lot of pressure.
Yeah, the show's been spectacular for public awareness. Our rescues have decreased significantly, potentially dropped in half.
Yep.
And yeah, like the support we get from, the people that make our quad bikes on the beach, our first aid equipment, even the awareness in council. We work for council, and council, didn't realise they had a lifeguard service when I was first there. That, everyone just thought it was the volunteers in red and yellow.
Yeah.
Now the volunteers do a wonderful job, but you would work with, you're a professional paramedic, someone that does a first aid course can volunteer at a first aid event. And this is the difference, someone that sets their career to studying and honing their body. And it's not even a career, it's a lifetime.
Yeah.
People can't just be lifeguards. You almost need to grow up in the water. It's very difficult to, at 20, go, I want to be a lifeguard. The skills that the lifeguards have been developed over sort of 10, 15-year periods.
Yeah. When did your amazing business concept begin?
Yeah, I guess, it's been an evolution of my life. I was training people and involved in fitness always. I was, as I guess, 18-year-old, I was training younger nippers, training them in the surf. Fitness was sort of, I struggled at school, but fitness was my thing. I was super fit, swimming really well, making rep teams, used to do all sorts of fitness stuff. So yeah, sort of coaching young kids was always part of what I did. I started studying sort of health and fitness in 2002. I was an apprentice. I was a plumber. I did a traineeship as a plumber, but wasn't really interested in pursuing that. So I started to study health and fitness. when I got back from lifeguarding in the UK in 2002. Now, in 2006, I was king hit and had my 4 front teeth knocked out.
Where was that?
I was at the football, and I was sitting there having a beer, as you do, sort of looking to the left, and someone ran up and king hit me from the right. They knocked me unconscious. They knocked out my 4 front teeth. I think one of these is fake. That one there.
Why?
Well, it's a long story of aggravated assault, but it was, it wasn't discussed with me. I didn't see the punch. The guy got charged with aggravated assault or grievous bodily harm, and if that happened now, he'd be in jail. There's no doubt about it.
Oh, he didn't do any time for that.
No, he got I don't know, 100 hours or something of. But if it happened, this is a long time ago. This is almost 20 years ago. So there was some serious deaths in Sydney, and Danny Green campaigns for a coward punch law over in WA, and I think that's Australia wide. So there was a death of a cricketer, I believe, years and years ago. So there has been David Hooks. I'm lucky to be alive.
Yes.
That could have killed me.
Yeah.
And it certainly didn't do me any favors. Yeah. I ended up with post-traumatic stress. I had allergies. I had eczema and dermatitis. I used to scratch myself till I bled. I had a fear of leaving the house. I was constantly at dentists and doctors and psychologists, and they're giving me sleeping medication and anxiety this, and and it just nothing was helping me, and it was just making me depressed and angry and upset. And so I ended up with a holistic lifestyle coach by the name of Aaron McKenzie. Right. And he trained under a guy called Paul Chek, and his foundations were of health before thoughts, breathing, nutrition, hydration, movement, and rhythm. And so, I was interested in fitness, but, he was very focused on our mindset. And then also on how we breathe, and then also how hydrated we are, and also what we eat, before he would look at how someone moved. And I found this mind-blowing, and his book, How to Eat, Move and Be Healthy, really changed my life. And so there was a rebuilding process from the ground up.
And was that going on while you were a lifeguard at Bondi?
Yeah. So I continued to lifeguard full time, studied, all these coaching courses, and started to get really deep into it. Yeah. And, there was a relevant interest to people drowning in rips. And I know we've talked about this off air, but I'll go over it again. But when someone gets in a rip, and you would have seen people get into trouble, they go into fight or flight, they panic. And essentially, what I was learning and studying with Paul Chek and what I'm teaching now when I put someone in the ice bath, is to understand and regulate their nervous system and their stress responses in the body.
So I've got PTSD. Say I'm someone with, I do have PTSD, but someone comes to you with PTSD. What can your movement do for them? What things can you do? It's not just ice baths, is it? It's far greater than that.
Yeah. So I studied a holistic lifestyle coaching model where you would coach someone to look at all the little things in their life that maybe they're not thinking about that contribute to health and wellness. I'd like to discuss it with people and look to see where we can find improvements, look to see what they might enjoy doing, see if I can educate them. It can be as simple for some people as chewing their food, or more mastication, not masturbation. Yeah. And some people are doing too much of the latter. And they, there's a whole range of things that influences people's health. And, that going to bed that little bit earlier does wonders for some of the people that I work with.
So what are your thoughts on sleep? How much do we need?
Yeah, so everything's different for everyone. I'm not dogmatic with any individuals. There are some sort of, getting all the sleep hygiene things in place. I'm a big fan. So I had like a sleep apnea, um, where I was stopping breathing in my sleep. And I never knew this. It was just, I was still functioning. I was still, achieving well in sport, still, doing really well. But I started to feel this fatigue and this lethargy. And that's how I discovered the Wim Hof method,
Okay.
because I was just feeling flat and lethargic. So I would sort of struggle with my sleep all night, get up, do some Wim Hof and pump myself up, jump in the cold shower, and then I was sort of off and going again. But when I discovered or rediscovered some of Patrick McEwen's work, and I touched on a lot of this stuff earlier with Paul Chek, and Paul Chek was very big on diaphragmatic breathing, as it's a great way to support the core when you're lifting something up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so diaphragm is, our major breathing muscle, but it's also a core muscle. And, Paul always educated about this. So, yeah, everything is so connected.
Mm.
And if we're not breathing diaphragmatically, we're potentially elevating our stress ever so slightly. So, mouth breathing or upper chest breathing and fast breathing just stimulates that fight or flight response ever so slightly. And where breathing's really so powerful, we're breathing 20 to 25,000 times a day. So, improving all these little techniques, all these one percenters can really pay off big in someone's life.
I train at a gym with a lady by the name of Mel Armstrong, who used to do the Ninja Warrior course, and she's very tuned into a lot of this stuff. And one of the people she trains with is a guy called Jared Briffa, who is a free diver. And he's very big on nasal breathing, and also very big on the stuff that you do with when you do sleep, using devices to tape your mouth closed so you do breathe through the nose. Can you tell us a bit about that, about nasal breathing and sleeping and breathing through your nose and even exercising through your nose, what the benefits are of that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I just touched on a couple. So when we sleep, we recover. We literally get smarter. We download memories. Our body regenerates. It's an amazing tool.
Mm.
If you're nasal breathing at night, you're getting potentially more deep sleep and better recovery and all of those things I mentioned. If you're mouth breathing, it just flicks off that fight or flight sensors in the body,
Yeah.
and then you come out of deep sleep.
Okay.
You're over breathing, so again, we're just stimulating that a little stress response. You're more likely to get up and go to the toilet. You're more likely to wake up, and you're over breathing, so you're not breathing optimally. When we breathe through our nose, so we're less likely to get sick when we're breathing in and out through the nose. If you're exercising, and again, I touched on the diaphragm being a core muscle, when you're exercising and you're breathing through the nose, you're recruiting that diaphragm to stabilize your core. So you're less likely to get sick and you're less likely to get injured breathing in and out through the nose.
Mel and Jared encourage this at the gym, particularly for recovery and also doing hard exercises to nasal breathe. I try really, really hard, but I find it claustrophobic. Is there a period of time that if people persist with it, it'll feel more natural?
Yeah, it is a challenge. And, for those people that are interested in this, James Nestor's got a book. Have you read Breath, the New Science of the Lost Art?
No, I haven't.
No. Fascinating book where
Yeah.
he literally surgically blocks up his nose for 10 days. Him and another guy, another breathing guru, and they get all the stats and data on themselves as they can. So they try and make it as scientific as possible. And then they track mouth breathing for 10 days. And then, so their heart rate goes up significantly. Their blood pressure goes almost hypertensive. Their blood sugar changes. Their snoring increases something like 1,500%. Sleep apnea increases. Everything changes. So, yeah, in that book, they talk about, I think he coined the phrase human de-evolution. So in the last 300 or 400 years, humans are struggling to do things like breathing, which would have come naturally for our ancestors. So some of our noses aren't as big, our nostrils aren't as big, our facial cavities not quite developed right. And there's a whole range of reasons for this. And he touches on a lot of these in the book. Me, as a child, I wasn't breastfed. Um, so this could have potentially contributed. There are some other, intergenerational, potentially what my grandmother ate could influence the shape of my face.
Well, there's also the thing too, isn't there, that facial structures aren't as defined or as strong as what they used to be, because the food we have now, you don't have to chew as much, do you? There's not as much challenge. Everything's soft, processed.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And less nutrient dense food.
I've also read somewhere that it's also assisted the dental and the orthodontic industry greatly, because people's teeth are not developing and falling and becoming as resistant, are they?
Yeah, that would be, it'd be huge.
What do you see with your clients when you take them through ice baths? What are the changes? What are the positives you see?
Well, it empowers people. Although it's really changed now. When we first started to do it, it was almost unheard of, apart from football teams and maybe athletes.
Yeah.
And people used to think it was crazy. People used to come in quite scared, almost terrified of the ice bath. So, at the start, we used to run 3-hour sessions then, and we'd sort of have to reassure everyone that actually the breathing would be the hardest part of the day. So it was amazing to empower these people that were terrified to achieve something that A, they didn't think was possible, and B, something they hadn't done before. It just opened up a whole new world of possibilities for them. They would cry and hug, and you've changed my life. It's beautiful work. Working as a lifeguard at Bondi, I've experienced some beautiful sentiments from people when I have, saved their lives. Or, I've been involved in bringing people back to life. It's a very special feeling. And there's a lot of gratitude, from people that sort of comes back. And so it's not a new experience for me, but it's mind blowing. The people that I've been able to help. And I actually see the analogy that, I'm teaching these people about their nervous system. If they were to get stuck in a rip, I think they'd have a much better chance of surviving.
I went for a swim in the bay today for about 40 minutes. I think it's
good
warmed up.
swim.
It's about 11 or 12 degrees. But having said that, so I've done the last 13 winters, but what I'm finding with the ice baths is my mind says, if you can do an ice bath, this is easy. So you're saying that, just to expand on that, surely you've had so many clients, you must have clients that say, I've done an ice bath, as you say, work's not that bad, or I can do this, or I can. Do you find people are getting more out of themselves physically as well, like athletically?
Yeah, we see a whole range of things. One of the big things, apart from what you just said, it opens people up to natural health. So instead of looking for alcohol or, prescription drugs, sleeping tablets, they're going for walks, they're having swims, they're doing meditation, breath work, or ice baths. And so that response is fantastic. And then cumulatively over time, it is just life-changing. But as you mentioned, the ice bath seems to be, and I've heard it called in one of the books that I read, a keystone habit. So when people sort of set these keystone habits in place, they're able to form and build other habits on the back of it. So yeah, people with addictions are finding success by supporting themselves with cold therapy. Yeah, it's been an amazing journey and a technique or offering to share with people.
What are your thoughts on cold showers for people that are just looking to dip their toe in the water, so to speak?
Yeah, it's great. I love people exploring all sorts of different variations of cold therapy, and I love people trying new things. Some people find the ice bathing easier than the cold showers, which is quite interesting.
How do you use breath work to help people into ice baths?
Yeah, so we use breath work to relax the nervous system, to downregulate the pain receptors. Usually it's a nice little community group when we've got it there.
Mm,
Sometimes we use, I trained with Wim Hof many years ago.
mm,
So we use techniques like the Wim Hof method. What I do is slightly different. So I call it modulated superventilation, where
mm,
we come in and out of that stress response, except apart from doing it, apart from it's very different from a panic attack
mm.
because they're intentionally taking themselves into that response.
Yeah.
So taking people in and out of that intense breathing really seems to take them sort of up and down and up and down and up and down. And at the end, it's almost like they're floating.
Right.
And they haven't experienced, some people haven't experienced anything like that before. And again, it's very powerful, empowering. It brings them into their own body, and it's just life changing for some people. There's no other word to describe it.
I spoke with a breathwork coach a couple of weeks ago, Taylor Jackson, and this is stuff that it has been practiced for a long time, hasn't it? But it's come and it's gone, and it's obviously seems to be riding a real peak at the moment of the wellness movement. And we do need Western medicine. I don't disagree with that, but you've got to wonder. There's a lot of stuff, and as you say, a lot of stuff people are taking, and you think, do you really need that, or do you really need to, as you say, try some natural stuff, breath work,
Yeah.
cold baths, instead of masking issues?
Mm. Yeah, it's frustrating, and again, every individual is different.
Mm.
Quite often, I tell some horrific stories about doctors, what they've done to people and what they've said to people, and like this constant masking, or this constantly giving people a pill if they've got a headache, and they're not looking at the root problem. And we had a girl the other week, and she was mentoring someone with cancer. And literally, they did chemotherapy. No, they cut it out. Chemotherapy cut it out, but they didn't sort any of the root problems. And she ended up with cancer again. And you do wonder if these doctors, and not all of them, don't hate on me, doctors. There's some brilliant
Yeah,
doctors out there that do
yeah,
some amazing work,
yeah.
and they're so intelligent. But in this preventative health space, there does seem to be a couple of horror stories.
Um, where are you guys? I mentioned briefly, where can people come to your amazing practices? Where are you guys set up?
Oh yeah, so I've got a little studio at Bronte where we work out here, there, and everywhere. I'm doing a fair bit of corporate work at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Physical and mental health and inflammation from the ice bath really contribute to supporting people's health.
So
There
you'll go
is,
into a corporation and do some breath work in ice baths.
yeah, I run stuff over Zoom.
Yeah.
You're sort of able to. I've done programs where we've done sort of 3 or 4 Zoom sessions over a month, and then done a live ice bath.
Wow.
We are able to. We've done Zoom ice baths with all the people around the world during
Wow.
lockdown. And some people just had a cold shower. Some people didn't want
Yeah.
to have the ice bath, but it was much better than nothing. Obviously,
Yeah.
we love seeing and working with people hands on, face to face. But during COVID, when we didn't have that opportunity, Zoom was a great way for people to connect.
Do
And
do do some people prefer to do it over Zoom as opposed to in person, or is that more, as you say, just a situational thing with COVID? People would prefer to do it in person.
yeah. Well, if I'm working with a company and they've got employees all around Australia, and people in, remote places, there's just not the opportunity to to work with a
Yeah.
breathwork coach or a Wim Hof instructor. At the time, I'm not sure how many Wim Hof instructors there are in Australia. There might be 15, 20. There's obviously not a lot of sort of people up and coming now with different qualifications, and there's a couple of cowboys in the game as well. Some good, some bad.
Mm.
But yeah, it's more popular now, this
Mm.
field. But yeah, I guess that's the benefit of technology, and we want to use technology and we want to use medicine when we need it. It's not the bad guy; it's just the misuse of these things are the problems in society today.
How many people can you have in your sessions? How big can they get at your studio?
At my place, I've had 20, but it's really nice for sort of 10 to 12 people.
Yeah. Yeah. And is it always a combination of breathwork and ice baths, or do people just sometimes come down for the ice baths?
Yeah, so again, I have people, I work with a whole range of different people doing a whole range of different things, anywhere
Yeah.
in this sort of life health coaching space, from PT to not as much yoga anymore, but
Yeah.
sometimes pranayama, sometimes people are interested in the Wim Hof method. Sometimes people are already practicing and want to have that first ice bath. We have community groups. Um, I've just got a big sauna put in the backyard. So we're playing with a little bit of contrast therapy.
Yeah.
And it's what we're doing as opposed to other people is educating
Right.
people on the why they're doing it or the potential benefits, as opposed to just facilitating. Because there's in Sydney now you can ice bath on most beaches near
Really?
me. Yeah.
Wow.
At least at Bondi, there's ice baths there, I'd say 6, 7 mornings a week. Down at Bronte, I've seen them 3 or 4 mornings a week. And then there's all these recovery studios popping up everywhere. So yeah, it's busy. It's almost competitive.
You you don't just facilitate people, you actually train and accredit people. Can you tell us a bit about that space?
Yeah, so that happened somewhat organically. But a couple of years ago, I started teaching for Patrick McEwen from the Oxygen Advantage. Excuse me. And that was during COVID, when partially because Patrick couldn't travel to Australia, and also his business has increased tenfold in the last 4 or 5 years. So that this breathing field has become more scientifically validated, and so he needed instructors to teach his course. And after I did Patrick's course, every now and then when I was reading something, I used to pester him and I'd email him and say, Patrick, what about this? What about this paper says this, but I don't understand what this was doing. So when Patrick needed someone to teach his work in Australia, I was the first person he asked. Now, I don't know if I was the smartest or most qualified person. I'm actually sure that I'm not, but I'm sort of very passionate about the nervous system. I've been quite interested in it for maybe 10 to 12 years now, and maybe longer, lifeguarding. So that, yeah, the breath work and the nervous system regulation stuff and sort of teaching Oxygen Advantage was what I ended up doing. So I started mentoring and teaching Patrick's work, and it was beautiful. But these guys weren't insured to take people into an ice bath. So yeah, originally I wanted to create something for Oxygen Advantage instructors to be able to facilitate an ice bath. And then with this popularity surging, I just had more and more people asking me if I could accredit
Yeah.
them. And then I'm like, well, yeah, I'll get it done. So I jumped all the hoops.
How can people do the ice bath coaching course? Is it?
Yeah, originally I thought it had to be done face to face.
Yeah.
And, I wanted to sit with people and work through them. And then, I had people literally begging me to do it online. There was a guy Mark in Perth he's going to break a world record next year, I hope, for the world's biggest ice bath, which will be super exciting. But yeah, so we went through the content with him online. Like Mark, a lot of these people already have a great base level of knowledge.
Okay.
And we're able just to make sure they're ticking all the right boxes to minimize risk and maximize benefits and maximize enjoyment for the people. So yeah, we put all that together, and it's online, and we run face-to-face courses. We haven't traveled all around Australia. I think sort of we're in Melbourne earlier in the year, and Queensland, New South Wales, but there's an instructor there's not one in South Australia, but there's one in every state, and there's a fair few international instructors now as well. So there's 100 certified ice bath instructors worldwide, which is super cool for me.
Well, it also probably assists them as far as you're a great referral hub. And also if people come to you and they can't be in Bronte, if they're in Western Australia or wherever, they can always use your directory, can't they, to get someone who's accredited. And
Yeah, that's what we love. We love being able to support people.
yeah,
And I'm busy, so I can't be everywhere. I can't travel
yeah,
everywhere to do everything. So we need more people doing this stuff, and we've seen how powerful it can be.
yeah.
And it's happening anyway. So people are doing it, and it's happening organically. And yeah, more and more people are interested in getting qualified from us, which is cool for us.
Just briefly, are there risks with ice baths for people? What are the things that people should be careful of if they're going into this sort of thing?
Yeah, of course. That it's probably an intense form of not quite exercise, but yeah, with any sort of intense form of exercise or hot therapy or cold therapy,
Yeah,
ice bathing is a hormetic stress.
yeah.
So I don't know if I told you this story, but they had a World Sauna Championships back in one of the Nordic countries about 10 years ago.
Mm.
Now you can guess what happened. Someone died.
Right.
And someone ended up in hospital. So when you're playing with hormetic stresses, there's risks involved.
Mm.
And, you've got to find what we call the Goldilocks principle, where it's not too much, not too, not too little, just right. And that's different for different people.
We when we spoke on the phone the other day, you made a good point that particularly for males with the ice baths, and I know I get sucked into it sometimes, sort of going for longer and longer, and it's actually not what it's all about, is it? There's a sweet spot for everyone.
Yeah.
To continue to push yourself is just silly, isn't it?
Well, if your goal was to do a 20 or 30-minute ice bath and you really wanted to do that, I would help you and support you get to that goal. I would also explain along the way that, there's going to be a significant decrease of benefits, and you may even, cause some damage to your body whilst trying to achieve this goal.
Can you tell the listeners, please, about the amazing event and course that you've got going on with a close friend of yours on the 2nd to the 4th of November of this year?
Yeah, so that's the Oxygen Advantage. I'll be teaching advanced instructors, and Patrick McEwen's coming out from Ireland. So Patrick wrote the book, The Oxygen Advantage, if anyone is interested in Patrick's work. And he was in this sort of functional breathing world 20 years ago. He was quite fascinating. Oh, there's the puppies. He was a leader in this field, and he's just a brilliant, brilliant man. He knows the research back to front, and to be co-teaching, to teach for him is an honor. To be co-teaching with him is pretty special, because he's getting busier and busier, and he won't be in Australia, as often,
So what will people get out of the course?
Yeah, so you become an advanced breathwork instructor where you're able to sort of facilitate courses. There's the community, there's the connection, there's a whole range of skills, knowledge. The way they've set it up is brilliant. There's my words are escaping me. The platform that you have access to a whole range of information, and Patrick's made it really user-friendly for new instructors.
Oxygen Advantage, how is it different from other breathwork courses? It's a lot more specific and scientific, yes?
Yeah, a lot of people, you could quickly describe it as Oxygen Advantage looks at the way we breathe all day, every day.
Right.
And potentially the Wim Hof method is more of an exercise that you may do to reach altered states or to change your body.
Yeah. So I'm coming up to do the course. What will I get out of it for myself?
Yeah, so it depends exactly what you're looking for.
I'm looking to learn. I'm looking to do all sorts of stuff. What if you went up? Say you came up and you did the course and you didn't then specifically become an instructor. What can you learn for yourself from the course?
Or there's a whole range of information, Ross. People's breathing can change dramatically. It changes people's breathing for the rest of their life.
Okay.
It brings a new fascination and a whole understanding of the nervous system.
Yeah.
But we're looking, to give people what they want or what they're looking for, or to find that passion.
Yeah.
And so I'll be looking to find what your passion is and where you can best help people. Yeah. And I would suggest, with your background as a paramedic, there's a great opportunity for you to work with shift workers and emergency services, because what you've dealt with is extraordinary. I know when I've brought someone back to life, that feeling, that rush, if you could bottle that and sell it, it would be the most amazing drug ever. But on the flip side, when things don't go as well, it's pretty tough to deal with.
So you've brought people back to life on the beach, and obviously a very amazing feeling. How does it compare to what you're doing now with, say, getting someone through their first ice bath and they're really emotional, or breath work? Are they the same? Are they different? How does it feel for you?
Yeah, it's not quite the same. Well, most rescues we do are not the life and death, bringing someone back to life.
Okay.
I've done maybe 5,000 or 6,000 rescues and been involved in 20 or 30 resuscitations.
Yep.
I've done some spinal injuries where I've had to really talk people into going to get x-rays, and we've worked out that they have had broken necks. And those people, again, have been extremely grateful that, because they could potentially die at any moment. Unlikely, but it's different. And again, sometimes I work with people and you can clearly see that you change their life. Other people, it's subtle. Other people, they sleep 20, 30% better. Sometimes you get couples sleeping back in the same room together.
Oh, wow.
You don't, it's hard. It's not as potent, I guess, but over the long term, there's significant improvement in people's lives, significant satisfaction. And, just to hear couples sleeping together, this is maybe saving marriages.
What's a rough percentage of people that you have and then return? You'd obviously have ongoing clients.
Yeah, so when I work with people one-to-one and we're delving into functional breathing stuff, I only want to see them a couple of times, and then I give them exercises to follow up. They're welcome to come back, obviously, whenever, and support their nervous system. That may be, but for some people, the mouth taping is a huge thing, plays a huge part, and then for other people, the cold therapy is more powerful. In one of the studies that I read a couple of years back, post-heart attack, there was 150 people in the study. It was a study in the US. Post-heart attack, 100% of these people were dysfunctional breathers. So you had upper chest breathers, you had mouth breathers, you have sleep apnea, snoring, all those sorts of things. So the extra stress of that poor breathing on a person's body is killing people. It's hard to know exactly, to put an exact percentage on it when we improve the way someone breathes, but you take each breath and you times it by 20, 25,000 in a day, and then 7 days in a week, and then 50 weeks in a year, and all of a sudden, you've made a significant change.
I don't want to be controversial, but what is happening to us as a society in regards to weight? We're not thin anymore, are we?
Yeah, potentially, we're over breathing and overeating. We're not moving enough. Yeah, we need to breathe less and move more.
They're pretty simple things, aren't they? But we're forgetting them.
Well, it is, but the cold is the same. Humans have evolved being in and out of the cold for millions of years, and it's in the last 20, 30, 40 years in particular that we've got these temperature controlled houses and we're just not exposing ourselves to the elements.
We're not, we're too comfortable and we're not struggling anymore, are we?
No. And there's a whole range of books written on this, and this is what the ice bath and the sauna do. They're hormetic stresses, and in the right dose, the body responds really positively to these. The science on sauna is amazing. All-cause mortality for males that sauna 4 times a week is something between 40 to 60%. It is phenomenal.
Does that include infrared saunas? Is it any sort of sauna?
Most of this long-term study was done on Finnish saunas, I believe, and they look at the temperature.
Yeah.
There's some great research on infrared saunas, but this is a long-term 28-year study done on Finnish saunas. And I was actually sharing a little post about that last night. So the sauna and the ice bath potentially mimic exercise for the body. It's not quite the same, but we're getting that increase in heart rate. We're getting a workout for that cardiovascular system. We're improving insulin sensitivity. Metabolic illness is a huge one in society today. So we're getting some of these benefits we're getting a reset, particularly in the ice bath, but also in the sauna. We're getting some amazing benefits.
Is this why Scandinavian people look so fit and healthy? Because they've done the contrast therapy and they've done this for so long?
Yeah, well, it's detox. Sweating's great. There's a big thing everyone's talking about. You've got to finish on cold, got to finish on cold. And there is some science to support that, but it's almost like people going, oh no, I can't have a sauna, and they're stressed about it at the end.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it is great. It is good to finish on cold, but finishing after a sauna certainly wouldn't be bad for you.
I will put it up on the show notes and I will put it on YouTube, but can you please plug your Instagram and your website for the listeners?
Thanks, Ross. Power of the Breath is my Instagram, and I spend a lot of time on Instagram chatting with people and helping people and pointing them in the right direction. I sell myotape, which is a sleep tape. It goes around the lips as opposed to covering the lips.
Yeah.
There is a budget version you can just buy. You can just buy some tape from the chemist and just tape it across your lips.
I've done that. You tend to pull the skin off though after a few nights.
Yeah, it hurts a little bit. The myotape doesn't cover the lips. So it's an elastic and you stretch it out when you put it on and it brings the lips together.
Okay.
So for people that get stressed, that are more likely to panic, myotape's a great option for them to start with. DeanoGladstone.com, and then there's a whole range of sort of links and bits and pieces on there.
Yeah. But if they go on to your Instagram, then you'll have all the links on there, won't you?
Yeah, I've got a link tree thing on there. There's multiple ways to, if you punch me in Google, I'm sure there'll be a way to contact me and reach out.
So when people refer to surgeons, they're very godlike. Or traditionally, surgeons save people's lives. People like yourself and people like Taylor Jackson, who I had on a few weeks ago, you're actually changing people's lives. Like you're doing it on a daily basis, and it's fantastic. And I really, really hope that this movement continues, because the stuff that you and your lovely wife and people are doing in this space, you're actually helping people before they have to get to reactive medicine. And it's extraordinary. And we're really grateful that you've come on and spoken to us today. And I can't encourage people enough to get onto your Instagram and look at your link tree and find out about it, because we're too reactionary, aren't we? We need to be proactive and we need to do stuff like what you're doing, so that we don't need to take all these other medications and we are fitter and we are healthier.
Yeah. Breathe less, move more. But walking is such great exercise. And as you mentioned, the cold shower, it doesn't have to be complicated.
Yeah.
Start with the basics. The basics really work quite well. A swim in the ocean.
Yeah.
as long as you can swim.
Yeah.
Red and yellow flags if you can't.
My wife, for the last 13 years, can sense my moods, and she just goes, "Go. I'll see you in half an hour." Go. Dean, thank you.
Pleasure.
We really enjoyed it, and we can't wait to see what's on offer. But please go on to Dean's Instagram, because he's got a huge following and there are some amazing people. And you've got to think to yourself, if you've got people like Bronte Campbell and Josh Dacos and many other athletes following, and I noticed you also had football clubs as well doing your courses, there's got to be something to it.
Yeah, it's exciting working with the athletes and people, the first grade rugby league teams that I've worked with, people think that their professional athletes are great breathers, and they're not, which is quite surprising. So, yeah, everyone can breathe a little bit better, and you sleep better and you feel better.
Thank you for your time, Dane.
Pleasure, Ross.